So taking a look at 4.1, graphing polynomial functions. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply what we learned in our previous lesson and use what we learned about end behavior and the degree of a polynomial and the leading coefficient. And then we're actually going to find the middle of the graph just by plugging in some numbers. So if we're looking at this polynomial, f of x equals negative x cubed plus x squared plus 3x minus 3, we know that the highest degree is 3, and therefore that is odd. The leading coefficient of that same monomial is negative. So odd negative, that tells us that the ends are going in opposite directions. So we know the ends, it's going up on the left and down on the right. So if we plug in some numbers, that helps us to get a little bit more information. We always want to plug in when x is 0, because when we plug in x is 0, that helps us find the y-intercept. So we plug it in, we get negative 0 cubed plus 0 squared plus 3 times 0 minus 3. And so of course, all that's left is the constant of negative 3. So if we plug in 1, we just need to remember our order of operations. Plug in 1. So we do the exponent first, that's 1, and it still stays as negative, so negative 1. 1 squared is 1. 3 times 1 is a 3, and then minus 3. And so we notice when we plug that in, we get 0. So at 1, we're at 0. So next we'll plug in 2. Negative 2 cubed plus 2 squared plus 3 times 2 minus 3. We would get negative 8 plus 4 plus 6 minus 3. Negative 8 plus 4 is a negative 4 plus 6 minus 3. Negative 4 plus 6 is 2. So 2 minus 3 is a negative 1. Then we would also plug in numbers for the rest. So go ahead and try plugging in negative 1 and negative 2 and see what your y values are. So if you plugged in negative 1, you should have gotten a negative 4. If you plugged in negative 2, you would get a positive 3. I went ahead and plotted those points on the graph already. And so we know a little bit more about the inside of their graph. And so we'll just trace from one of the endpoints and then trace through it. We don't really know what it's doing. We don't know where the turning points are. That's for another class. But we can look at sort of how the middle looks like, right? We don't know exactly all our x-intercepts and things like that, but it gives us a better picture of what's happening inside. And so go ahead and try the example 1, 4 minus x cubed. And you can kind of even think about it, that it's just an x cube, it's a cubic, and it's flipped over, and it's shifted up 4. So that kind of helps you a little bit with maybe what the graph should look like. So go ahead and try graphing 4 minus x cubed by plugging in some values, and go ahead and choose negative 2, negative 1, 0, 1, and 2. So if you tried it out, you would have gotten, when you plugged in 0, you get 4. Negative 1, you get positive 5. Negative 2, you get 12. At 1, you get 3, and 2, you have negative 4. So our y-intercept is at 4, and then you have the points that you plugged in, so 1, 3, and negative 1, 5. The other point that we can graph that'll fit on this graph is 2, negative 4. And so here is the graph.